Hey everyone, Happy New Year's. Welcome back to the channel. Robert Doyle here, and I have some interesting clips for you today. Is your money safe in the bank? We all deposit our money, Chase, Wells Fargo, whatever it is here in the US. We have our FDIC insurance and we say, hey, my money's insured. It'll be there when I need it. Will it? So I have some clips today, guys, and this is pretty serious, right? So this is actually from an FDIC meeting in November, and you might have seen these clips floating around somewhere, but I'm just going to play these three clips and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what they're saying here, because it does sound like something serious is going to happen in 2023. They are getting ready for it and they don't want this information leaving this meeting, and you'll hear them specifically say that in these clips. It is concerning to me, and I wanted to bring it to this channel because this could affect you. And I know this is mainly a crypto channel and we talk a lot about crypto, but we also talk about what's going on in the world, especially here in the United States with regulation and with banking and all of that. And so let's get into these clips, guys, because they are pretty serious. Okay, here's the first one.
Wondered whether there are some market tests.
That's Jay Clayton that you just saw there, the guy who originally helped sue Ripple.
Of whether you're being heard. And I think about TLAC. So TLAC should respond to good and bad news about the institutions, and it's really important. It's a little bit conflicted, right? It's important that people understand they can be bailed in, but you don't want a huge run on the institution, but they're going to be.
He's talking about huge run on institutions, and he says there are going to be, and he looks around the room for some clarity from his friends, right? He's looking around the room, hey, this is going to happen, right? So let's listen to this again, guys. I'm going to rewind this.
It's important that people understand they can be bailed in, but you don't want a huge run on the institution, but they're going to be. And it could be an early warning signal to the FDIC and the primary regulators when these things happen. And there may be some other prices, this is similar to what Jay was saying, in the market that you can tell whether people understand who's going to be protected, who isn't going to be protected. It would be, I think, an interesting study to look at the evolution of market prices in a situation like March of 2020, for example, and see whether people understood what might happen.
So he said something about people can bail in, right? So if banks need a bailout, maybe from the IMF or World Bank, right? He's also talking about bank runs here, guys. And there's been a couple places around the world, some in Africa, some in Europe, where they've limited withdrawals on how much money they can take out of the bank. And now you go to the bank and they ask, why are you taking this $10,000 out? Where's it going, right? And so here, I got some more clips here, but you're hearing from their mouths, this FDIC meeting, that they're going to be bank runs and people might not be, some people won't be protected. That's what he said in that clip. Let's play the second one.
To go back to some of Dick's early comments, I do think it is hard to get a lot of demand for transparency right now in this sort of period of peacetime, but that is going to flip, and it's going to flip probably even faster than we saw in 2008, where the need for communications really quickly in the social media world to avoid disinformation, to have some holding patterns for things like, I remember in the early days of bail-in, people saying they're coming for my deposits. So just holding communications that you can pull out that are helpful to deal with disinformation, some very simple things, and how quickly you'll be able to deal with different constituencies. For example, as liabilities are further up and closer to harm's way, when are you going to be able to give them some comfort, if any? How do you deal with foreign operations? How do you communicate to some of those different groups? I think ex-ante preparation for the speed of scaling up and the ability to get information out to avoid rumors taking over a narrative strikes me as probably the place that feels like it's got the most benefit in a world where I think you've done a pretty good job of getting out the basics of Title II and some of the basic resources that are available now.
So they're getting ready, right? They're talking about specifically gearing up to fight disinformation, because bank runs are going to take place. We don't know the extent of how bad it'll be, but when you go deposit your money in the bank, I don't know if you understand this, but your bank can go ahead and take your deposit and loan it to somebody else, a business, or I don't know if it's going to be personal loans or whatever, but they can take your money and use your money somewhere else to make money themselves. And if there's $1 trillion worth of money that's been put into a bank and everybody wakes up the same day and wants to take their money out, right, because they don't trust the bank anymore, the bank might or probably won't have enough cash to facilitate that. And that is a serious concern. Clip, I saved this one for the last because this one has a little bit more information in it. Let's listen to this one and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But see, look, Wall Street Silver says they don't want the public to see this video. The bankers don't trust the banks, right? They're talking about financial crisis and their lack of the faith in the banking system and how to keep the public from freaking out. Listen to this.
It should be accessible when people need to know, but I don't think you have much hope reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
Listen to this.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank?
This is an FDIC meeting, guys. Just listen to this guy.
No, but I don't think you have much of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank?
Yeah, you should. You should definitely.
Like, my
be
insurance
concerned.
company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets. They just assume they're going to pay my claim. I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do. That we want them to have full faith and confidence in the banking system. They know the FDIC insurance is there. They know it works. They put their money in. They're going to get their money out. So there's a select crowd of people that are in the institutional side. And if they want to understand this, they're going to find a way to understand this. There's a bunch of law firms represented in this room. There's a bunch of people that'll charge them by the hour a lot of money to explain this all to them. It's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And they all have huge staffs. But I would be careful about the unintended consequences of starting to blast too much of this out in the general public.
Wow. All right. If somebody like came up to me and told me that they're having this FDIC meeting and they said these things, I probably wouldn't believe it. But when you see it unedited, you know, them talking about we can't let this get out into the public, it's going to be a mess. So the guy talked about TLAC, right? So TLAC, executive summary, what TLAC is. The Financial Board issued the principles of loss absorbing and recapitalization capital of GSIB in resolution. The insurance also included the total loss absorption capital term limit, right? So objective of the TLAC standard. The TLAC standard requires global systemic important banks to have financial instruments available during resolutions to absorb losses and enable them to recapitalize to continue performing their critical functions, right? So their Basel III TLAC, they bank this year, 2023, have gone back to having asset-backed. Their assets are asset-backed, like gold, silver, digital assets. Better believe digital assets will be on there. But this is a problem for banks right now, guys. There's some banks that aren't going to make it over the next couple of years. To try to understand that, it's going to be worse than 2008, what we're getting into. You have China, Europe, and America all going into a recession at the same time. 60% of other countries around the world are already in these tough terms in recession. There's places like Argentina and a few others that are like 99% inflation rates or high 90s inflation rates just in the past 12 months. There's a lot of serious problems going around the banking system, right? And so Forbes put out this, in 2023, banks will batten down the hatches and prepare for the upturn. And there's a lot of just risk of global recession in 2023 rises amid simultaneous rate hikes, right? So these rate hikes the Fed have been doing don't just screw with the United States, it screws over the whole world because the US dollar is currently, not for long, but the US currency is the global reserve currency, right? The US dollar is. And as the BRICS countries and all those countries go back to an asset-backed standard, the United States will probably be the last one that does because they are going to be losing their power. They're already losing it with the petrodollar, right? You have China and oil exchanging their own currencies for oil instead of using the US dollar. But this is a problem, guys. And I didn't want to keep this video to be like 20 minutes long. I just wanted to show you those videos, show you what the chat is going around banks. And this is from the World Bank, actually, and it's from September. But understand 2023 is going to be a tough year. You need to understand the digital assets you're investing in and make sure they have a place in the future. Make sure they have a utility. Make sure you know what you're holding, right? Anyways, guys, none of this is financial advice. I just am trying to open your eyes to what the FDIC meetings are about and what they're actually talking about. And it doesn't look good for you and me and regular people around the world. I'm sure businesses will get bail-ins before regular people do, but serious changes is going to be happening in the monetary system in 2023 and in 2024. And if you don't understand those, you could be severely affected. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. I hope this was helpful. If you learned something, please like and subscribe. There's a large number of you that watch the videos that are not subscribed. Just press that little button. It does a lot for me. I appreciate you. Bye, guys. Ciao.